Hi, everybody. For some reason, I'm having some trouble with going live on Facebook. Not sure why. So it's only streaming to YouTube. So I'm just trying to see if I can fix that really quickly or if it's just not going to. If it's just not going to go. Okay. Well, I will try to fix that later. I apologize. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. I'm not sure what the Facebook connection problem is, but I will look at it as soon as this is done. So welcome if you're watching live and welcome if you're watching on the recording. My name is Julie Fei-Fan, and hi, Sandra. Oh, so you're on Facebook and it does work. Great. Okay. And hi, Nancy. Welcome, everybody. Feel free to pop in. I have a cough drop in my mouth, so I may sound a little marble mouthy because I have a lingering cold. And Margaret says that we're good here on YouTube, which is great. Hi, Karen. So we're going to be discussing The Artist's Way. Now, I want to talk a little bit about why I picked this book. And we're going to be doing this for the next 12 weeks, working through it 1 week at a time. I'd love to know your experience with the book. Hi, Donna. Hi, Kathleen. I picked it because I've just basically in my whole life have heard people talk about The Artist's Way. It was one of the first self-help books. Somebody gave me a copy when I was I want to say like a preteen, like maybe 12. And I don't really remember it, but I thought, here I am, an adult, a creative. This feels like a really good thing to kind of like reinvest in. So I went out and I bought a new copy. And I had a little quirk for a moment because right on the front, of course, it says a spiritual path to higher creativity. So I should be completely upfront and say that I was raised in a what I would call a culturally Jewish household. My mother is an atheist and my father was Jewish, but not particularly religious. And so I'm pretty much a Jewish atheist is the way that I would think about it. And so there's a lot in this book that's about investing in God that I personally find difficult, but I'm trying to get over it. Okay. So that's the basic premise at the beginning, just I have to say to everybody. So then the second part I want to say is, the other thing it says on the top, which I guess I should have read more closely, is it says a course in discovering and recovering your creative self. So that word recovering, this is really based out of a lot of 12-step AA stuff. And there is a lot of basically stuff about the idea that you're somehow a crushed creative that you need to recover from. And so maybe you are and maybe you aren't. But anyway, the point is I found a lot of this book really difficult. And so what I'm going to do is each week I put together a little vlog, which is me sort of basically like in real time figuring things out. And then we're going to kind of talk about it, your point of view, my point of view, and sort of see what we come to. I think the biggest thing I take away from The Artist's Way that is if you do this in a group, and it looks like Estella saying that she did it in a group, there's not really supposed to be a leader. So I'm going to share my experience. I hope that you'll share your experience and we'll just kind of talk about it. So first thing to say about this vlog, pardon me, is that the cold I have now was starting when I was doing this. So I was really sick. And 2, I have some kind of food on my face during like the first half of it, which we'll just try to ignore. Okay. So here we go.
Day 1 of The Artist's Way, and you can probably tell from my voice I have a cold. I'm sick, but art waits for no woman or for no cold or for no nothing. So we're just going to jump in. So I just finished reading the introduction, and I have to confess that I think maybe this book is not for me, or at least I'm not its intended audience, because it's a lot about like people who have writer's block, people who have artist block, people who feel stifled by things, people who have beliefs that they have to be unhappy to make art, people who don't feel creative, people who, and I think that's a lot of people, but it's not me. So I don't know how effective. Not how effective. I'm sure I'll get something out of the book, but I just don't think it's going to be like a life-changing experience like people talk about because I don't have those problems. So this part's hard for me. I know she talks about God and she says if you don't believe in God that you can substitute other things, but like I don't know. It's just creativity is God's gift to us. Using our creativity is our gift back to God. I don't know what to do with that. I just don't like, is it supposed to be motivating? I don't find it motivating. I'm trying not to be like a jerk about this. I'm trying to really dig down deep and say like, okay, so I'm just going to gloss over the spirituality aspects of it and keep moving. So I just finished reading the introduction. And I'm about to start week 1. And so here's sort of my quick thoughts. So she basically talks about how there are 2 really important things, the artist date and the morning pages. And the morning pages remind me a lot of, for many, many years, I did this thing called art journal every day, where I would definitely do something in my art journal every day. And often it was just like writing random thoughts for a little while, for like 10 minutes a day. And that's kind of like what morning pages sound like a lot, except this was, I think, slightly shorter than that, because morning pages are supposed to be 3 pages, and this was like a little paragraph. Still find tons and tons of photos of those pages on my blog. But the other thing is the artist date, which is actually, it's a funny thing because it's something that since I had my son, I've been thinking a lot about, which is I used to go to museums constantly. I used to go to galleries all the time. I used to do a lot of things like that. I mean, it's also plus COVID. Because we're still very COVID cautious in our house. And so I say this while I have a cold. It's not COVID, but it is a cold. And so I haven't gotten out to like do things like that. So I'm having a change of heart already. And what is it, 10 minutes after I record the last video? But, I think maybe this will be good for me. So I can feel that my resistance is huge here. Like I'm willing to do the morning pages, I'm willing to do the artist date, I'm willing to do the check-in. But there are some questions. I mean, this week is basically, I don't know. I mean, this week is entitled Recovering a Sense of Safety. And a lot of the assignments in here are basically about like negative beliefs you have about yourself or about artists, and like people have hurt you in the past, and like that's baggage that I left behind years ago, and I just don't have it anymore. Like one of the questions here is, it says like, one horror story from your Monster Hall of Fame. I literally can't think of someone who was mean to me about my art. I mean, there have been many people, I suppose. I mean, the internet's full of mean people who say mean things about me personally. But I don't, I'm regretting that I decided to do this, because it just doesn't seem like a good fit. So I finished my first morning pages, and first of all, I only did 2 pages instead of 3. Second of all, I had to stop multiple times because I was like, ooh, squirrel, ooh, squirrel. I like could not focus. And my handwriting has really gone downhill. I don't do a ton of handwriting anymore. I do a lot of computer writing, and it's just terrible. Anyway, looking forward to tomorrow. So this morning I had the thought that maybe I would do my morning pages somewhere other than my art studio, so that it would kind of separate them from work, because I come up here to work. Maybe put them by my bed or in the kitchen, so that it really is like a morning thing that's less about like a work thing. I didn't do it today though, so I'm going to do them here in the studio, and then maybe tomorrow I'll bring it down tonight. I find morning pages really difficult. There's something, I just have trouble paying attention. I have trouble forcing myself to do it. I mean, there's tons of stuff to write about. It's just I find it boring and draining. I don't find it energetic or energizing. And I've already modified it to 2 pages. I might have to modify it to just 1 page.
So last night I brought my book downstairs to my bedroom, and I thought I would do them this morning when I woke up, but my son was up right away, and so there was no chance. So now I'm in the kitchen, and we're going to do some morning pages here and see if that makes a difference. Okay, true confession. I have not done morning pages for the last 2 days. I really regret choosing this book. I do not like it. The morning pages take forever. I'm going to try to motivate myself to get back into it, but I'm kind of feeling like... So I definitely should have taken some video inside the thrift store, but it was really crowded and it felt kind of awkward. So I went on my artist date. I went to the thrift store by myself. I poked around. The steal of the century is I got 15 Villeroy and Bach dishes for $20. And, you know, touched some stuff, played with some things. I think I got a pack of file folders for 99 cents, but mostly I just enjoyed myself and looking at things and thinking about things. It made me think about taking pottery class. It was a good time. Morning pages are not going well, but this I like. So I thought I'd quickly share what I got with you. So, oh, my husband's coming down the stairs, so he probably wants to see too. Oh, so these are some exciting file folders that I got for 99 cents. I figure we buy file folders anyway. What's the difference? We just used a bunch for taxes.
How sad is our life that this is exciting?
I thought it was exciting. Okay. Then, you know how we're always like, we have one gravy boat and it's so... What?
Another vase?
It's a pitcher.
Okay.
It's a pitcher. We're going to have people over and they're going to have cream and sugar and like it'll make it feel... Oh my gosh, he doesn't like any of my stuff. This is why I didn't bring him with me. Okay. And then you're not going to like the next thing. A bigger pitcher.
What?
He's so mad. I love it. So here you go. But I thought it was really pretty. Okay. And then I went looking for linens. They didn't have any linens. They only had curtains and stuff. I wanted table linens. And then I got this cute vase. Stoneware. Or at least it looks like stoneware. This was, I'm a big spender. This one was $9.99. And then my big steal though is, boom, 15 Villeroy and Bach porcelain plates for $20. My wedding china for my first wedding, my first marriage was it was Villeroy and Bach. So I'm excited. I'm ready to do my week 1 check-in. So first question, how many days a week did you do your morning pages? It says 7 out of 7, we always hope. How was the experience for you? Maybe 5 out of 7 and it was, oh, I shouldn't say that. Maybe 5 out of 7 and it was not the best. Did you do your artist date this week? Yes, of course, we always hope, and yet artist date can be remarkably difficult to allow yourself. What did you do? How did it feel? So I think I've already been through that. Were there any other issues this week that you consider significant for your recovery? Describe them. Okay, so this is my problem. This is my problem. Significant for your recovery. What am I recovering from? I just don't understand why you have to be a tortured, effed up person in order to be an artist. Like, how is that the point that we're starting at? That everyone has to have some sort of dark, bleak, complicated history. Like, Okay, so first of all, there are so many great comments that I want to go through. So first, Nancy mentions that she took a class with Julia Cameron in NYC, and I would love to hear it. Nancy also has done her morning pages, and she commented about that. So Nancy, I'd love if you have any thoughts about it to hear about it. Estella also participated in Artist Way group, and they met weekly for checks-in and accountability, which I think is really important. Sandra says that she's done a group read before, and she appreciated the morning pages and the art day. I am sort of in the same space as Donna, which she says, I've only gotten to the first part of the week. I feel that it presents that the reader is broken and needs to be fixed, and I don't necessarily feel that way. Now, listen, the first thing I want to say is that it is absolutely a form of privilege to be in a position where you don't feel like your creativity has been crushed. The other possibility is that you have already done the work. I think in my 20s, I would have found this book really engaging in a way that I don't now that I'm in my 40s, because I feel like I've done a lot of the work of feeling like an imposter and getting over it. And I've done a lot of the work of like getting rid of the people in my life who don't support me. I mean, there is nothing like getting older to teach you that people who don't like the weird flavor that you are don't belong in your life. The older and older I get, just the more and more confident I become in the fact that like I'm weird and I'm cool with that. If you like my flavor of weird, let's hang out. And if you don't, then let's not. Like, we don't have to be friends with everyone. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's neither here nor there. And then Beth suggested a really good substitution. If God is not working for you, she suggested using universe, just saying creativity, pardon me. Creativity is a universe gift to us. So I thought that was a nice substitution. Donna mentions that she did the first day of morning pages, and she did correct to say there was a BS theme to her pages, and she'd rather draw or paint than write than feel forced. And there was kind of, you know, some other thinking kind of along the lines there that you can adjust the assignments to fit what you need and still see some benefits. And I think that this is so important with anything. I think that it's important to try it the way that, listen, this book has worked for literally millions of people. So who am I to be the one who says that it doesn't work, right? But I think you can take the idea or the concept, because really Julia Cameron is a writer, you know, first. And so she started morning pages, which are writing. If you are a visual artist, is it not possible that she talks about the morning pages as a meditation, that perhaps the morning pages as a meditation for you as an artist could involve color and, you know, drawing and like things that are more about how you express yourself in your own vein, because not everybody thinks in writing or finds writing meditative. And one of the things I'm realizing when I was just watching that vlog back is how annoyed and agitated I felt after morning pages. Instead of feeling sort of sanguine and relaxed, I was all kind of like, argh. And I don't think that's what morning pages are meant to do. She keeps talking about them as a meditation. So I think we have to do what suits us, you know? And Beth has a similar suggestion. She says, could they actually be morning inking by substituting your creative thing of choice, right? She writes, I blend ink 100%, Beth, I'm with you. Pardon me. Carol says the handwriting's not important. Sometimes I write neatly. Sometimes it's a completely scribbly mess. And I think that's a good point. Just do it the way that it works. Sherry said, I thought that the intro was scary because of the 3 pages. Nice to know that you only did 2. By the way, I'm down to 1. I'm down to 1 now. I was thinking about doing them. And by the way, this is the size of my notebook. It's a big boy. It's an 8.5 by 11. So, you know, I got a lot to fill. Was thinking about doing them on very little papers. I don't like to write, but I can, but don't like it. There are a lot of things that are going in my head. Why don't I need to put in writing? Maybe I will. The jury's still out on that. I thank you for putting all your ideas out there. Yeah, so maybe we can find some other ways to do it. Donna says the artist date is a good idea. I agree. That was my favorite part of the week, and I'm so glad that I did it, even though Steve didn't like anything that I brought home. Nancy mentions that she ended up recording dreams for the morning pages. But I'm assuming that Julia Cameron told you in the group that that's not the point. And she said it was not enhancing to her life. Carol suggests just calling it the morning page. Sandra says that she had to adjust in some areas, took what she wanted from the book. My page 3, I would write the words of a song and that I art journaled instead. Yeah, I think, again, like take what you want. I think that this is another thing about like being older. So I'm like, this book obviously has wisdom in it that I need to find. And what I need to do is get past my own like inner sarcasm, or it's not sarcasm, inner sort of disbelief in some of the more spiritual aspects of it, I guess, and come to like, what is the point? What can I take from it? Because you can always take something away. I mean, I already feel like week 1 is a success just because the artist date gave me some, joie de vivre and like made me feel really happy. Even Steve's reaction to everything made me feel really happy. There you go. Yes, our lives are exciting when I was so excited about getting file folders for 99 cents from the thrift store. I'm glad you like my pictures, Carol. Thank you very much. And yes, the pictures are obviously going in a still life. Hello. Okay, so, and Carol, this is so important, says she has the opposite experience, which is morning pages helped her hugely within the first 6 months of doing them, really helped me get clarity on some relationship issues I was experiencing. I think that's fantastic. And I'm going to say, personal story for just a moment. The reason or the way that I discovered art journaling is when I was going through a divorce. I had been a scrapbooker for many, many years, and I'd sort of heard of art journaling, but I hadn't been able to get into it. But when I started to go through a divorce, I was very emotionally upset, obviously. And I was trying to work through my feelings, and I found that I couldn't scrapbook, which had been my creative sort of outlet at the time, because a lot of scrapbooking is about gratitude and thankfulness and like celebrating your life. And I was just not in a place where I could do that. So I found art journaling, and it allowed me to put things in pictures that I couldn't put into words. So, which I actually think, now that I think about it, that's probably pretty good evidence that I process through pictures and colors and not necessarily through words. But yeah, I think that processing, whether it's through writing, through drawing, through whatever, it's such an important thing to do. So I'm all a fan of that. And Carol, I appreciate your point of view on that. What store was this again? There's a thrift store near us that always has some really great stuff, because they're one of the thrift stores that don't price things in a way that's like they need to make millions of dollars, which some places do. They just like, they price it to move because it's a tiny little space and they just want it to go, which is great. Morning buying instead of morning pages. I like that. I think it might be useful. I think you are recovering from the artist way. Possible. Nancy says, my understanding of the focus of morning pages is to do them first thing, to do a brain dump and do a full 3 pages as more is released as you write. I think that that is true, that obviously I tell this to people all the time about making art, that when your first idea is probably not your best idea. And so that you need to keep going, keep going, keep going. So is this an art practice book or a therapy book? It's really not an art practice book. It's really not. Like, that's one of the reasons I decided to do the vlogs, because there isn't really any art that you can show, and you're not supposed to show your morning pages to anybody. These are supposed to be like locked away in a dungeon. So I was trying to think of a way to make this a more like active thing. And that's why I've been recording myself every day as I'm working sort of my thoughts, my feelings, and trying to figure out a way to make it a little more active. It's much more of a therapy book than anything else. I mean, it's self-help, I think. Carol says she ignores the part about being blocked because it isn't relevant. Nancy says she didn't finish. And then Estelle says she struggled a lot with morning pages. I've read so much about the benefits of a daily journaling practice. Yes. And then Beth says she was in an Artist Way group that lasted only a few weeks, but morning pages were different for different people. They were not all writing. That's a great tip too. Pardon me, this cold won't quit. Sandra says she feels the same way with the bag of stuff. I passed all that myself. I did the work. Yeah. So yeah, I've read a lot. Nancy says there was almost a cult-like feeling. Some people said the book saved their lives. I've read a lot of people saying that it saved their lives, that it changed their lives, that they wouldn't be an artist without it. And I think that is so amazing. But I think I also went in with these really high expectations that was going to happen for me, that it was going to like 180 my life, like everything was going to be different. And I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, it could. We're only on week 1. We got to get to week 12, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I have to be honest. If I hadn't said to the world that I was going to do this for 12 weeks every week, I would have quit. But we're here. We're going to do it. We're going to muscle through together. Okay. So perhaps what many artists call a warm-up could be the equivalent of morning pages. I think that's great. Absolutely. I agree with that. I'm so relieved to hear what you're saying, Julie. I like your interpretation of the book. I'm so glad. I think it became an assignment rather than something enjoyable, have to do, not want to do. That is one of the things. Like I always feel like it should be something that you're looking forward to, something that's exciting. Although she does talk a lot in the introduction about like not wanting to do it and pushing yourself and forcing yourself through it. And like, I do think that there are things that are hard to do that you kind of have to like muscle yourself up to do, but I don't know yet. Jody says this book is definitely not for everyone. The spiritual aspect turned me off. One option is to write your thoughts, then paint over them. That's a great idea too. Thank you, Jody. CR says, Julie, I agree with you. Read this a while ago. I'm always just plain old happy when I'm not recovering and or troubled. Happy to see you after design boot camp, which added to the happiness. Oh, I'm so glad. Sherry says the artist date is something I do most weeks because I'm retired and have time to wander where I want. I think that's great. I will say it's very rare for me nowadays to go somewhere without either my son or my husband or my mother. I seem to always have a companion. So the artist date, I think, is going to be a great thing for me. If I can get myself out of my house every week by myself to do something, I mean, that's a hip, hip hooray. I like the idea of just doing some artwork in the morning. Me too, very, very much. Skepticism, you're right. When I was looking for that word and I kept saying sarcasm, yes. Beth said it was skepticism, by the way. Yes. Kathleen says, I think you're right in that the book is not written for you, Julie Balzer, and that, yes, you've already worked through much of what she talks about. And I think that's fair too. Like, just because the book isn't for you doesn't mean that it's not fantastic for everyone. I in no way want to turn anybody off from the artist's way. If you think that this is a book that will help you, please, 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 please read it. Absolutely. I'm only sharing my personal experience, which is I'm struggling with it right now. And Sherry says, I'm glad someone in the group got something out of the pages. Maybe it will silence our inner critic if we can get our feelings on paper. I think that's a good one. Margaret says she circled back to the artist way many times over the decades. It's played a role in her ability to recognize her creativity. I never thought of it as recovery, but it was in hindsight. That's a great insight too, which is sometimes you don't know what you need. And maybe I will encounter something in here and it will really help me. So actually, you know what? Let's actually talk about this. One of the tasks, so half the tasks this week are all things about like listing old enemies, writing out horror stories, write a letter to the editor in your defense. But there are 3 things that I really liked from the tasks this week. One was to list 3 old champions of your creative self-worth. And I thought about it and I was trying to think about who are the people in my life who have always encouraged me, you know, creatively. And I actually realized that there were some really critical people who I probably haven't given. I mean, like my mother has always been, like I've always said, she's the president of my fan club. And she's always been, and I'm very lucky and privileged to be able to say that because I know that not everybody has an incredibly supportive mother. So that's really, really lucky. And then before she became my friend, Jen Mason was the editor of Cloth, Paper, Scissors. And she was the first person who started like asking me for artwork, gave me a column in the magazine, like believed in me enough for me to believe in myself. And that was a huge turning point just in my self-esteem. So there have definitely been people, and this did make me like take a moment to say thank you to them and to consider it. And then the other thing that was here is this says, select and write out one happy piece of encouragement, write a thank you letter, mail it to yourself or the long lost mentor. And while I didn't do that, what I did think about is, you know, there's this old thing that I think is true where they say, don't take criticism from somebody you wouldn't go to for advice. And when I said like nobody says anything bad, that's not true. People say bad things to me about my art all the time. It's just that I don't take it because they're usually strangers on the internet. Usually people don't say bad things about my art to my face who I know personally, who are people I like have in my life and like and respect. And so I think like that's been a huge division of understanding in my life. And for some reason, this made me think about it, which is that like you have to believe the good things that the people you respect say more than believe the crappy things that some strangers or some people you barely know say, right? And the other thing I really liked is she says, if you had 5 other lives to lead, what would you do in each of them? So this is what I wrote down, which kind of surprised me. Hold on a second. Which I said I would be a therapist. I would be a writer. I would be a stay-at-home mom. I would be a professor. I would run a marketing company, some kind of like startup marketing company. And then the second part of it is, she says, Julia Cameron says that you have to do something this week with one of those professions. And what I realized is everything that I put down is something that in some way I kind of already do. Maybe not being a writer, although I mean, I write a blog and stuff, but I don't like write fiction. And that made me think that either I'm not dreaming big enough or that everything is in alignment. And that's a matter of perspective. I think that if I felt like I was not dreaming big enough, I would then start to feel like my life was less than. But if I believe that everything is in alignment and that other things that I want are just alternate lives I could have even right now, then I think I'm incredibly content. So sometimes I think being unhappy or content is a matter of perspective. If you decide that what you have is enough, then you're okay, I guess, is what I would say. I don't know. I'm going to have to think about that a little bit more. Anyway, circling back to the comments, because there's so many good ones. Kathleen says, I did this book back when it came out and found it helpful then. I was in my mid to late 20s then. I found morning pages difficult and did them about 4 out of 7 days for a year. Absolutely. I think in my 20s, I would have been in a different place. Donna says, I think I will go through the book and see where it takes me. And Julie, your videos are your morning pages. That's actually probably true too. Talking it out, trying to figure it out. And Kathleen says she's going to pull it out again. Yes. And then, you know, what's interesting is I wonder, Nancy, because you mentioned that Julia Cameron said that you shouldn't use your morning pages to record dreams. And I'm wondering if she told you why. And if she did, if you could let us know, I'd love to know. Sherry says it'll be interesting to hear our comments after 12 weeks. What are we going to find? Exactly. Will we all go into this like unhappy and come out transformed? Or will we come out as equally unhappy and saying we wasted the last 12 weeks together? I don't know, but I'm here for it. Beth says, I'm blocked, struggle with procrastination. So for me, morning random playing with painting stencils with no end goal would be worthwhile because I'd make marks every day, goal free. That is a really good point. Sandra says the artist way was a game changer. The artist date was a game changer. Finding a day to see color, textures, etc., just making the time to build your creativity was refreshing. You know, Sandra, that actually makes me think that a good artist date for me might be to just go out and take some photos for inspiration, just like a little wander. I'm going to steal that idea. Carol says, by the way, at one point I wrote my morning pages on the train home from work. The book does seem to assume that you are a full-time artist. That's interesting, isn't it? That you'd be a full-time artist and yet need the recovery, right? There are two personal examples. God for those people, but here and there would be fine. Sophia says, I think you have to find ways to adapt it to your own well-established art life and who you are as a person now. You've worked through a lot of the other stuff people who come to this might not have. Between pages 2 and 3, I run out of things to write. Yes, but that's where deep stuff that I haven't had words for come up. And that's very important to bring up those early inchoate thoughts. And I think, yeah, like it is one of those things where somewhere in the struggle, I say this to my art students all the time, somewhere in the struggle is where you need to be. You need to go to the pain point and sort of push through it. Diane says, no one has ever discouraged me, but I grew up feeling non-artistic because I was good in math and science. After almost 50 years as a professional accountant, is it too late? Diane, you know the answer to that. It's never too late. And I also happen to know that Diane is incredibly artistic, so. Nancy says the artist date is great and was easy for me as I'm retired and enjoy going off on my own. During COVID, I would go for drives and find interesting this to photograph. Nancy, did you do the artist way during COVID? Yes, never too late, Carol says. Exactly. Oh, Carol's also an accountant. She says it's not too late. 70-year-old retired nurse, and art has always interested me, but I felt I didn't have enough talent or good enough ideas, but I'm going for it now. Yes, Carol, go for it. Awesome. Yes, with most things, it's what you bring to it, 100%. Margaret's a recovering pharmacist who is, yeah, you need art after giving so much to so many. That is so true. 100%. There's a lot of great, here's a quote: to want what I have and take what I'm given with grace. Absolutely. We only have so much time and you must pick and choose what you do. No one needs another labor. This is so true. And I never, ever felt it as acutely as when I had my son. Because first of all, I don't know what the heck I was doing with all my free time before I had a kid. Like, I don't know why I didn't like have like world peace solved and like build a house by hand, because I must have had hours and hours and hours of time. But now I'm even more aware that every moment I spend doing something right is time away from him. And so I need to really focus what I do. And Sherry says, I'm thinking we will get something from this because that is the kind of people we are. Finish what we start, or is it never really done? At least we will know each other better, and that is a bonus. Sherry, that is such a wonderful place to end this week. I think that that is the perfect place to end and say, I don't know what we're going to get out of this. This is going to be an adventure for all of us, but we're going to do it together. And we're going to bring our doubts, and we're going to bring our enthusiasm, and we're going to try to like help each other through it. I'm excited. I want to say, if any of you are interested in coming on camera with your faces to have a conversation anytime over the next 12 weeks, I'm looking for some volunteers who'd like to stream in. So just send me an email at balzerdesigns2@gmail.com and let me know. And I would love to have you on so that we can all talk about it. Okay. So I'm going to keep doing my morning pages, see how I alter them, bring a good attitude to the whole situation, think about the universe instead of the idea of God, and keep reading. And I will see you all for week 2. Thank you for your wonderful comments. You really made this such an encouraging conversation for me. Like, I feel a lot more excited about this after talking to you.